consultant, developer. I do a lot of iOS, mobile stuff. Starting to do more high-level like CTO as a service type strategy. And one thing I'm running into a lot of is entrepreneurs will have some software development done, and they'll bring it to me and say, oh, we need to add just these couple changes. And I'll take a look at it, and I can't get it to compile. I can't get it to work. I can't start doing things that add value to their software quickly. So that's a problem that I see pretty frequently. I see a lot of the same mistakes being made over and over again. I've been writing software for quite a long time, and the same type of mistakes come up pretty frequently. So so who here is an entrepreneur? Okay, who wants to be an entrepreneur? Okay, a lot of the entrepreneurs, that's kind of me too, but developers, freelancers, consultants, that's what I mean. Okay, so we got a good mix. So I want to make sure everyone knows this is an unconference, so this isn't me talking up here for 50 minutes, although I love to hear myself speak sometimes. That's not how we want to do things. It's supposed to be back and forth. We have a little microphone on there. It should be like English Parliament. Stand up and start yelling stuff. But I think we can all improve our software and how our companies run by kind of helping the non-technical entrepreneurs speak development a little bit. Help them, at least, yes?
For the sake of the recording, is your mic on? It doesn't sound
It's on to the camera, but not, okay. Yes, so, hi camera. But everyone else, I just got to speak up, use my outside voice. So, I want to think of some things that people have done from the entrepreneurs here. What are some mistakes people have made with software? Raise your hands.
Spending too much money without fully understanding the product.
Okay. So what do you mean by that?
From like a basic website. Like, I just need a website done.
Okay.
I'm not questioning where are they going to build it, what are they going to do, all that type of stuff. Why is it at this price point versus... Well, the guy myself went through probably 18 grand of wasted development money before I just bought a book myself, and then I was like, I'll just figure it out then.
Okay. So you said, okay, I need this website done. It's going to be the greatest website in the world. I'll have to find a guy to build it. So you find someone will say, hey, yeah, I'll build you a website. So did he build the wrong thing? Did he?
Never completed, or another development company didn't want to finish updates before going live. I mean, just a whole host of stuff before learning to choose my own platforms and how to develop basic stuff myself.
Okay. That's cool. So what was probably the first mistake?
First mistake is not asking enough questions at the front end before the project started without a project start fee.
Okay. So
Questioning methods.
okay, questioning methods.
Like, why would you build a large community site off of Joomla, right? We were launching this whole thing or whatever. I can build it off of Joomla. Oh, great. I didn't understand what Joomla was. That's the worst solution to build any type of community platform.
Okay. So yeah, one thing that we can talk about is the different platforms. And if you're not a technical person, what's the difference between Joomla and Ruby on Rails? Okay. There's developers here who can probably tell you in great detail why one is great for everything, while the other one is also great for everything. But yeah, picking the right developer is very important. So for a community thing, you probably don't want to put it on Joomla. So yeah, it's pretty important to pick the right technology stack. Do you understand Ruby on Rails? Do you understand PHP frameworks? Do you know .NET? And you don't need to know exactly what those things are, but have kind of a ballpark PowerPoint where you can maybe list off a few different bullet points on which things might be valid for what you're doing. I mean, what are some examples of, a good? I'm trying to think how. If you have a really complex domain, maybe you want to do something like Ruby on Rails, something complex development. If something that's kind of off the shelf, more Joomla, CMS, but talk with people, talk with other developers, find out, what they're using, what problems the community is solving, because people doing Ruby on Rails are solving different problems than people doing .NET, and it could just be a simple thing. I want to put up a website that's a website for my pet store. That's maybe a great thing for CMS, WordPress. A lot of other technologies can do it, but it'd be a little more complex. So that's a great thing. So, do I have any more lessons learned? We talked about, yes.
If you don't, I think it's important that somebody a part of the team has a vested interest in the development work that's being done, and vested interest in the dollars that are actually being spent. So if you're contracting all out your development work, maybe you don't understand the development that's being done. You're the only one that has the vested interest. The contractor doesn't have that dollar vested interest, and they're working on an hourly basis. And the project may go from this to this, and you don't understand that technology build that's happening. It's really difficult to manage that. So having somebody on the team who can either do it and or manage that process with your outside developers is, I think, extremely important.
Okay, can everyone hear? Because we do little microphones, we can kick on. So John, what you're saying is that having people that have some kind of ownership of the project and can understand it from kind of a higher level. Anyone will take your money and work for however many hours you tell them to work until your money runs out. They can probably deliver what you're asking for, but maybe you're not seeing the entire full scope of it. Right? Anyone else see problems like that?
Are you implying that the contract be written around some kind of only paying if certain things happen as a result of it?
It might not matter how the contract is written with the developers. I think it's good to have somebody on the team who has enough of an understanding of how the technology is developed and has their own hand in their pocket doling out those dollars to a certain degree to make sure that development is occurring the way they want that development to occur. So if I don't understand enough about the technology aspect and I'm hiring developers to build something for me, they may complete it with all the milestones in the world, but it may get developed in a manner that could have been more efficiently done. It could have been done in a manner that might have been apt for greater growth down the road at some certain point in time. So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at from a technology standpoint that if you don't have that knowledge or understanding and yet you're just hiring out contractors, you should have somebody on your team who has a vested interest in that. Co-founder would be a great example of that, who can then manage those people in a better way.
Something that's kind of related to that is that in the state's miniature development, there was a legislative oversight committee that didn't look at anything until the project was supposed to be done. I mean, 3 weeks before it was supposed to be out and running, said, "You're not ready, what's going on?" And oversight to me means that you're going to be following the project all the way along and making sure the milestones are met, which implies that you've actually included these steps in your plan, so you know where they should be at each point along this, rather than waiting until, like you said, the money's all spent, the dates come, and you look at it and it's.
But you're looking at actually some competencies here too, like
Yeah, of
business
course.
analysis or product owner or whatever, even though they may not have those titles in there,
Right.
but they need to kind of know what that is and understand what this whole process of checking in.
You have to have some stakeholder that is keeping track of the project as it goes along, rather than just waiting till it's done.
Yeah, and I think somebody who doesn't have those technology experiences might be able to even manage a project and say, yes, are things getting done, and they could be getting done. But there's so much more that goes into it that person might not understand. I mean, I'm not a technology person, I'm a business guy, right? So I've hired contractors out to build my product for me. Did a great job building it out, but I don't know the underlying of how it was actually built, right? I don't know if
Will
it
anybody
was.
ever be able to maintain it?
Well, I don't know. That's
Right.
something I don't know. I don't have the
Right.
competency to be able to tell that, right? It would have been great if I had a technology co-founder on the team who could have worked with those guys and architected it a little bit better and worked with developers to make sure that it was being built to, the specs that we had decided were appropriate. And he would have had a vested interest
So I'm seeing two themes. One, it's very helpful to have someone on the team that has a higher level understanding of what the software is. So, I mean, did you look for technical co-founders? I'm sure you did. That's a very common thing. You know, I talk to people all the time like, hey, build this out for me. I'll give you equity. But, I mean, how did that go? I mean, can you tell us, do you have any tips, any things not to do?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to find a technical co-founder in this town. I've looked long and hard, haven't been able to find one. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And so that's the route, why I personally went the route of hiring contractors to build out what I want. I've worked on a lot of software build projects before, but none in the sense where the contractors had any kind of a vested interest. So I always did it within a corporate environment, right?
Mhm.
So employee to employee, we had, all basically the same interests. Here it was different, right? I had equity interest, they had an invoice interest.
Mhm.
And not to say that they didn't complete the job or get it done great. It's just there's some things that I don't understand about it, which would have been nice to know. And having had somebody who had that interest in the project would have managed that a little bit better.
Okay.
So.
Anyone?
I've been on both sides of that, but right now I'm putting on my developer hat, and anybody else who's a developer here. And I've worked on lots of startups, most of them, but not all successful. Finish this line for me. Somebody starts out, I have this great idea. And then what they usually do is, writing the code and the engineering. That's just a mere implementation detail, So and I'll give you, I don't have any money, but I'll give you 20% equity. And I know that's not what you're saying, but
It's so much more than that.
yeah.
It's not just, here's my great idea and here's my, even if I've got it down to the very last detail of the requirements, that's not the end of it, right? That's not the end of the project. I can't just hand that off to a developer and expect them to have delivered exactly what I was thinking about. So,
Well, and the scary thing is they might deliver exactly what you were thinking about.
But it's wrong.
but it's wrong, right? There you go, exactly.
Well, I mean, part of our whole conversation has been very positive so far. As
Yeah.
we've been talking about that, and that's probably the root cause that a lot of people with agile and lean startup methodologies that kind of helps to get around that is that if business and development aren't working in parallel, it's broken already.
Right.
And so that, I mean, whether it's in a contractor and founder or a partner relationship, there has to be that dual path going on, and they need to talk to each other as they're working in parallel. Otherwise, you both probably fail.
And you could tell that by I think it's pronouns. If you ever get a conversation that's us versus them, any variation of that, that's
We do it from the
exactly
start.
what you're saying.
I would say that, like, I mean, taking your example to the next step, goes like, I got this great idea for a website. It's like Facebook, but for soccer moms or something. Like, and then you develop an agreement. So whenever somebody comes up to you that you don't already know really well, you immediately just write them off. This idea is terrible, and they don't know what they're talking about. They give themselves into it, and so you get immediately just cynical and skeptical of anybody who wants some, who might even have a good legitimate idea, but there are just so many people that they like. You just come up with this one idea that's suddenly magical, and you're like, I mean, there's so many of them out there that it's tough to see the people who actually have the right idea.
So developers, what are some other turnoffs that entrepreneurs got to do in your pitches? Go ahead. Dan.
A lot of entrepreneurs I want to have a million users or whatever, so now let's lock in a contract so I can get enough server resources to handle a million users on the day that I go live, and they end up spending probably tens of thousands of dollars that could be used to develop features or whatever, but instead they're locked into this contract for servers that nobody's coming to because
Ouch.
haven't figured out how to do it. And I think that is a big problem. Is premature optimization of entrepreneurs are always like, I have this awesome idea, everybody's gonna come and use it. But first you're gonna have to build that small idea, so don't spend all of your money building this thing that can handle everybody before you've got that small idea that everybody you're in a much better position if you have a small thing that everybody's trying to use and they can't use it because it's too small, they can't handle it, than if you have this
Yeah, like building a server out before you started your application, like that was a real problem in 2000. You know, you had to do that. You don't have to do that anymore. So there's things you can do like on demand. You can do cloud things, Azure, Amazon, that where you can scale up as you need it. And most developers now can work with a cloud platform. Dan, what are some other kind of?
I was going to mention a red flag. I'm a consultant. I do the development for a living, and I don't want to come up with your brilliant idea. I want to make it happen for you. But when I talk to way too many recruiters, if the words market rate ever come up in a conversation, I hang up on it because they've failed to understand that what I'm selling, there's a reason why I want to charge more than what market rate is. I expect to be paid for quality. If you're hiring a developer and if they don't hang up on you for saying the words market rate, then you're looking at the wrong person. You want an expert.
Yeah, you get market rate if you want an average developer. That's how it works without providing a little something. Any more red flags, Michael?
One of the things I think is an effective strategy for business people to do before they go to a developer is I always tell like business friends like go on Freelancer and pay a tech person for 1 hour of time and have them tell you what type of technology you should be building this in, what the most effective framework is going to be, what your errors you're going to run into right away are. It's just like 60 to $100 of extremely valuable time. I mean, that would just like if someone comes to me and they don't know a thing about it, it's like, damn, like I can't help you because I can't speak the language. Do you know what I mean? So just to get that 1 hour of basic language lesson can make or break deals for me.
Okay, so you're saying go on freelancer.com, book out 1 hour, tell someone about what you're trying to build, and they'll say, oh, WordPress or Rails. What's that?
Do it with 3 different people.
Yeah, I mean,
And see what happens.
if you can get 3 good opinions for $200, you're doing pretty good.
If you're worried about your idea, just fake an idea. Take your idea and turn it into that for cats or that for
Right.
dogs. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yep.
it's super easy.
I'll also add to that on the business side, but we'll hire, the freelancer, e-lancer, or whatever to do either a really simple MVP and do the consulting about the technologies. But then once you really kind of pinpoint what you think is the best route, then this is going to be a huge project for your company or your main company. Spend at least, 3-4 hours, maybe a couple days on the Stack Exchange and all the online forums reading about the technologies and the possibilities so you can have, an intelligent conversation once you go to hire the real developer.
Yeah, definitely you need to become PowerPoint familiar with, at least with the Stackstar. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to develop in it. Although, if you can do a little bit, that's very valuable. I'm seeing people. Yep.
Wanted to add to what you said about somebody stealing your idea. I was at a party, of course, and it happens a lot. And somebody comes up and they're like, I'm working on this startup, and I'm like, oh, what is it? Well, I can't tell you because we've been working on it for a month, and we're going to launch in another month. And if I told you, you'd be able to clone it in a week, so I can't tell you. And well, what's going to happen a month from now when everybody finds out about it? There'll be all these developers cloning your idea. So you have a great idea, and anybody can execute it.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's a pretty good misconception that you have your idea. That's the hard part, and as a developer, the idea is the easy part. You've got a year's worth of work in between the idea and something that might make money, if that. So it's a good thing to at least stay. It doesn't make sense. I still get people like, "Oh, I've got this great idea for an app." I can't tell you. About it. I'm keeping it secret. But Ben.
So, again, not to carve too much, we keep talking about this separation, but if you're a business person, you don't have any developers or friends, and you want to build a technical app, you might want to rethink some things. Whether that's just, your social circles or whatever, but I mean, not that I would go to all my good friends who are either business or developer and want to be founding partners with them, want to work on it because I know that they're doing those things, but I have to have someone in my network who will spend an hour, who will spend 2 hours with me and do that and provide some value to me, especially
Okay, so you entrepreneur or
I work for a startup right now.
startup? Okay. So how have you met developers that have helped you out with this?
Started out at a CrossFit gym and then Magic Cure, Break the Bubble, all the cocoa, all that stuff. And then he got me into literally just introducing me to people.
Oh, sure.
Once you go to an event, if you don't come out of there with 3 or 4 people who want to listen to them more,
Hmm.
again, probably doing something wrong. Just a lot of listening, especially if you're coming from the business side, right? A lot of listening.
Okay. A lot of developers will talk to you. You know, they want to tell people what you know. You feel smart, so I mean, we can definitely utilize that if we're trying to get some basic ideas.
Something about disclosing your ideas is I would much rather have 10% of a killer app than 100% of something that never got developed.
Definitely. So one of the things we talked about is kind of picking a technology stack, finding someone who's invested into kind of your idea. But Don, some other people touch on things that I think is also a big time waster, big money waster, is kind of going off, having this grandiose idea, sending a developer to go build it for you, and they're building the wrong thing. Okay, can anyone relate with that? So, just building the wrong thing, or not being able to build it at all. You know, you spend 50 grand, you can log in and nothing works. So.
Well, that's common. It's like you get a developer. I've heard this story 1,000 times. I spent 20 grand. The guy did it this way. Then I went to the new guy, and he wants to totally scrap all that. So there's nothing to leverage because either A, it was the wrong architecture day one, or the guy's not comfortable with it. And this is the way I do my stuff. And so you got different cooks in the kitchen kind of thing. And so how do you? I mean, I was going to ask this question earlier. I didn't know if it was relevant, but this idea of if you have invested something, how can you leverage that? Will a developer come into a situation and say, yeah, we can salvage some of this? Or most of them are just going to say, forget it, it's over.
In 45 years, I've had one person that I know that would walk into a mess and work with it. And everybody else comes in and says, oh, it's a mess, they screwed it up, and they want to start over.
Well, it's easy, right? For them to start over. But the other part is like, I don't know, the other session we talked about this classic thing of the rewrite, right? Rewrite's never smart if you have a working product.
Right.
Now, here you don't necessarily have a working product, or it's half working, or who knows what the issues are, but it's a rat's nest. Any ideas on that issue, or is that really pretty much cut and dry that you got to kind of just scrap it and start over?
I don't think so. I think there's one common theme. We're talking about you have one developer working on something, they did it, they move on. The next guy comes in, you're already in tune to think whatever that guy did was crap. Okay, it's a natural response for anyone to come into a situation and see what's wrong. So, but they're probably overestimating how bad it is by 30%. And that's just very common. With a thread went on like on Reddit or something within the past few weeks talking about that. It's cognitive bias. You come into something new, you automatically think it's bad. So, take it with a grain of salt. But also look at things like, is this the right technology? Is this a Joomla site when it needs to be, in the cloud or something like that? Or, so there's different ways. I mean, I'm working with a client right now, and he's got an old Perl application, and there's a big part in there that no one understands, no one's willing to touch, and he's like, "Can you help me with it?" I'm like, "Well, I build them for kind of exploratory. Look at it. I'm like, we spent 3 or 4 grand, and I said, yes, we can do something with this, and this is what we can do." That's very high level stuff. So be careful. I mean, but if it's a smaller app, you can definitely do it. So it's definitely possible. Working with legacy applications is difficult. I think you really want a highly trained person for that kind of thing. But
I was gonna grossly generalize. There's kind of, in my mind, there's kind of levels of developers, and that when you start off with this legal financial, they're gonna take whatever you give them, and they're gonna treat fairly, so they're gonna find a way to work with it. The more average developer, I'd say, that is very common, where they're walking around talking to them, just gonna say, I don't get this, you need to start over.
if you have an app that's making money, don't rewrite it unless you really have to. But no, what you're saying makes perfect sense. You get a beginner come in, those I'll just copy whatever's doing here and they'll go with it. Maybe a person who understands one way of doing things will come in and they'll look at them like, this is the wrong way of doing it. This is how we should do it. And a better developer, the advanced developer, is like, okay, well, this way has these pros, these cons, and those people have their legs crossed and they're levitating across the room like that. But how do you tell the difference between these types of developers? Do you know? Anyone have any stories? Toby.
I heard the question differently. Like, you build something, let's say it's on like iOS SDK or whatever, and you just found someone who thought the code was crap. Like, I just say, whatever. Force them to work with it. I mean, I don't know. I don't see it. In most cases, I don't think it's legacy code issues. I would guess, if the thing's not live. Like, it's probably just some guy's building it in Ruby and the other guy is good at Java or whatever. And I would say, well, find a Ruby guy.
Right. I've encountered many things that should have been rewritten. So it's out there. I worked with it a few months ago, and it was like, yeah, we should have rewritten it, but yep.
Would you rather have somebody bring you a project with a bunch of code that works, or a bunch of code that's well documented?
I don't know. I think document.
I prefer something that's well documented that I can fix.
Well documented doesn't work.
It almost works. That's
Almost works. Okay.
If I can understand it, I can fix it. If I can't understand it,
Okay. So if you have a rat's nest you can't understand, but it's working, yeah, you can dig out of it. Yeah, it's.
No, I would say that the thing that I would add to that is I would rather have an undocumented system that's well tested, because the tests are far more informative about the behavior and what it's expected
then
to do.
somebody comes along and tells you they need 3 new features.
I think there's a Venn.
Those do not seem to be mutually exclusive.
I think there's a Venn diagram of code that is a rat's nest and code that is tested. Unfortunately, we have this gap. If we did not have this gap, we'd be fantastic. But no, definitely, if there's tests, I mean, the first thing that you do to get out of the rat's nest, hopefully, is write tests around it, and but that gets expensive. I mean, that's. But
We run into is sometimes people spend so much money on development. Once the product or idea is there, how are you going to sell it? How are you going to market it? How are you going to?
You're supposed to do that first.
Right? I mean, here they'll
Yep.
put all these, and then they just expect people to show up or something.
Actually,
Like-
something that people need to understand is that an application is not a business.
Okay.
There's a lot more to it than just having this great thing that does something nice.
Definitely. So I think a common mindset is like, okay, build the app, goes viral, rake in the dough. And okay. It's like so,
And maybe I've just been incredibly lucky because the lead developer that I work with as kind of a BA product owner hybrid is just freaking awesome. But the expectation that he has from me is that I'm giving him a business case as well as all of our user stories, as well as his expectation of timing and budget. Again, it's his expectation. If I just brought user stories to him, he would be mad at me, and rightfully so. And my expectation of him is that he's going to describe the approach that he's going to take technically, and yeah, 50% of it's going to go over my head, and then I'm going to ask questions back, and if we get to a point where it's like I'm wasting time with questions, well then it's Stack Overflow and the beautiful thing called Google. I guess from my question to the developers here would be, do you guys get people coming up to you who don't give you a business case? Because that just seems kind of ridiculous.
I have. Those are generally not the client site. Yeah, sometimes I get like, I just want a button here, I'm like, and it never works out very well, at least for what I do,
It's pretty easy to sit in here and you can't describe your business idea or your feature idea relatively concisely. An investor will throw you out of the room. If you're a developer, I do the same thing to you. It's not thought out.
I've never thought of that, sorry. I've never thought of that before, in terms of give me a business case. I'll never, maybe I have a bad attitude, but I wouldn't implement something without asking why. that's not the same thing as, you know, expecting a business case, but I will buy it, okay, and then build it.
Yeah, because if I don't give him a business case, he doesn't know what his scalability is. You talk about how he writes the code. You know, is this just a one-off thing, or if we had a situation where we actually developed for an investor because we wanted a big chunk and we knew that 20% of it was for that one little need that was going to serve crap for our, you know, in terms of overall market. So because he knew that that's not an area that he really needed to work in, very tight budget. That's not what he's going to spend the bulk of his time on. Yes, we're going to get baseline functionality. You know, it's gonna meet the requirements. But is that the area that he's really going to focus on? He's really going to drive so that if he does, within the constraints that we talk about, have that extra time, he knows where he's leaning next. He always has that way. I come from a military background where I give him task and purpose. If you don't give purpose, you haven't truly given task either. You cannot accomplish what I do.
I didn't understand that one term, extra time.
Yeah, right.
So there's a task and purpose. Is that the two things, or there's more?
As an officer, I can't give an order without giving a task and purpose.
Okay.
At least the way I interpret our framework, it's in my model order.
Okay, that's a very powerful rule. You know, you can always give out a task, but also giving the purpose. That's a great rule. I'm going to remember that.
This is really getting off on a tangent, but you were talking about collaboration, and one opportunity that works well, regardless of whether it's a startup or not, is you look at the use case of business requirements, and instead of what does it take to do this, you look at the efficiency of doing it, and you have a collaboration between the stakeholders and the developers, because it, you know, in time and budget box it, where instead of, you know, it's asking the wrong question, how long does it take to do this? The real question should be, what can we get done in this time frame and this resources? Because the latter is, I think, without question, always been, in my experience, more successful. Otherwise, you end up with all sorts of issues. It's the best product that never shipped, or, you know, things like that. You miss on the feedback that, you know, there's maybe 2% of the feature set that will take 20, 50% of the budget. You know, and it's those conversations you want to have early on, and in a collaborative nature that I think makes the product successful. What was the question again?
I think we're talking about how you can get a product off in the weeds. You know, how do you rein that in? I mean, if you have a big company, maybe they bring in an agile process. But if you're just an entrepreneur trying to work with developers, how do you rein in the budget? Or you rein in the scope of what you're doing?
Well, I think scope is a huge thing. I'm more on the business side, and I've been through a lot of different developer relationships, from revenue share to equity to outright payment to offshore, local, all kinds of things. And I feel like I definitely agree with the sentiment that business development, product development should happen in parallel. So certainly if you're looking for a technical co-founder, not just someone you're going to pay by the hour or the project, to have some accountability for what are the business development efforts that are going to happen in parallel with the product development, and how do we keep the scope. What we did the first time around was we built a custom application from scratch with way too many features, because we thought that's what we have to have. So you got to build with the customer in mind and realize that you're not the customer, even though it's your idea. So I think keeping the feature set small, and then useful to ask the question, I would think, of the business person is, what are you going to do when this let's assume it's done now. What are you going to do? Assume you have the money now. I think that same framework for raising money. What if you have, and what are you going to do? And can you really not do that now? Are you really blocked from doing that action because the site's not live? Put up a landing page, run some AdWords, collect email addresses, do something. And
Okay.
I think that builds rapport, and it's not just like, well, when you get your stuff done, then I'll go try to sell it.
Oh, definitely.
But
So
scope, definitely.
it sounds like you're validating your ideas, your assumptions, as development's happening. You know, do people care about
That's
this?
not what I did the first time around, so I've kind of learned over time, and it's definitely been more
So you
satisfying.
talked about it like a landing page. What would that be?
Yeah, well, the other thing when you were talking about reusable code, 6 years ago when we first built the first concept, now there's so many services that you can leverage out of the box for connectivity and backend and front-end resources and libraries and Bootstrap and all kinds of frameworks that you don't have to put the money into those things. You can put the money into what is it about your particular application that is unique. And so I think, presuming you're trying to sell something, who am I going to sell it to, and how far can I get down that path before they're going to want to see something? And can I get that first objection that says, sure, can I see your website? Oh, we don't have a website yet. Well, you can still get to the point of having someone ask for the website as a barrier to, or ask to see your PDF and then build the PDF. Like, you can get hung up on building all kinds of decks before anybody has
Mhm.
Just figure out who am I gonna want.
Putting information out there about it, about what it is, what is it going to be, what's it gonna do.
So we've done that, run AdWords, see what's your customer acquisition cost. I learned one thing early on too, is that you can learn things pretty quickly. You don't have to have a ton of data to know if something's working. I mean, you just have to see if it's starting to go in the right direction. So unfortunately, even if you give someone a link to something that doesn't exist yet, it's not gonna be a great experience for them, but you're gonna learn something about if anybody even got there and tried to click
Mhm.
on it before you worry about building up hopes. Like we've done that right now for Drop, Android version. Click the button and it takes you to an email subscribe form.
Mm,
We
okay.
already have it for iOS. The question is how many people will click that button, so we start to at least understand a little bit. It says coming soon for Android, but anyway, just like those things, like what can you learn before you actually have it?
Sounds like validating your idea. Dale, this is like a softball for you.
Totally, right? Yep.
Dale runs the Lean Startup meetup around here, so this is big part of what they do is validating your ideas as soon as you can, before you even get a developer. I mean, just have a link, shows up. Do people actually care about this? Do they care enough to click about it? To click.
Yeah, I'd say another thing that we focus on that's not talked about a lot is in the lean startup world, you have this idea of concierge, right? So if there is something you can actually handle and do through email and through a completely manual process, do that until it's so cumbersome that you have to automate it. And by then, generally, you hopefully have revenue and other things to support doing it, and then hire a developer. So I'm a developer, hire me, but but still, I only want it's a lot easier to find good developers and technical co-founders and those kinds of things when you have customers and revenues and you've demonstrated that you're focusing on the right thing and you're not just the customer that says, hey, put the green button here. That's really the solution. I don't want to tell you anything more. And then, so yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
One thing that's interesting when you talk about customers is somebody that tells you that everybody does it like we do it. And if you do it the way I tell you we need it, you can sell it to anybody.
Yep.
It generally doesn't work that way.
Well, that validation you're talking about helps you go away from what you were talking about earlier, where I got this great idea, because everyone has a great idea, but they're probably just gonna go, they say to everyone, and then they go home and they play on their Xbox or something.
Yep.
That person who's already gone through that process, like, that's someone I wanna follow, that's someone I wanna work with, that's someone I wanna partner with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey man,
Yeah.
I got my idea.
Yeah, that gets back to the how do you find your technical co-founder, the CTO? I mean, the person that's worthy of being the CTO, they're probably making six figures, and they could probably be making more doing consulting. Do you have the idea that says, oh, well, if I just put a little effort here, we're going to rake in money? I mean, that's a hard thing. I mean, that's a hard thing to show, but if you have users and you have people that are signing up and entering credit card information, stuff like that, that goes a long way of.
You talked about test before. You're
Yep.
basically, you have a strategy or a purpose, and you're testing that strategy as soon as possible in the least
Yep.
costly way.
So if anyone hasn't read Lean Startup, the Eric
Lean
Ries book,
startup
yeah.
And running lean, I mean,
Is there-
Yeah.
they don't fight, I don't think.
Okay.
Running lean is really documenting that guy's experience of applying lean startup. So running lean, I think is a little bit more
Prescriptive.
consumable. It's like it's easier to wrap your head around and get it, I think, than just the lean startup book itself.
Okay, any other, go ahead.
I was also going to mention, in recent years with like Code Academy, for people like me who haven't really learned how to code, it's been
Mhm.
really valuable and interesting to just, online code school, place to go and learn HTML and CSS, or try to get exposure to parse or Git, just to try to understand. So even when you're looking at things, maybe, I'm
Mhm.
not a developer, but I felt like at least I can make some inroads in that direction to just try to be a little bit more.
Yeah, even doing like the 101 courses online really increases your BS detector. When you're talking to the medium level developers, like, this is crap, this is no good, and you can at least understand, okay, the rest of the industry is maybe going in a different way. Yeah, I mean, I go to the Rails.mn meetups and I see entrepreneurs there. They're not going to be hacking on their code really heavy, but they're there kind of learning and doing stuff. So that's, if you don't have the technical component, I mean, go to a meetup where people are writing basic code and learn. I think that's very valuable. Hey.
Talking to a developer, if you go to like a foreign country,
Yeah, just having someone that understands a little bit about why you're doing something this way. Because I'll talk to people like, hey, I want to have this developed, and like, oh, what's the existing app done in? They're like, they don't know. Like they paid money to have someone do it, and like they don't know if it's PHP, they don't know if it's .NET, they don't know if it's COBOL. I mean, I don't know. So,
We paid 7 different people to do it over the last 14 years, and we've got a little bit of each of those.
okay, that can happen. That's a whole different problem.
So let's turn the tables and ask, how should developers learn, for lack of a better term, business 101? Or,
Okay.
there's your comment, that it goes further, please and thank you, instead of, oh, we're developers, we're artistes, we can't be bothered with deadlines and budgets and.
Yeah. This is a great industry if you wouldn't have clients, I mean.
Well, that worked fine in the 90s, but
Okay.
nowadays it's like, cool.
That sort of goes back to what James said a little bit about agile, and you said that maybe it doesn't apply perfectly for like a small startup versus a big company, but
Mhm.
I think that concept of when you're looking for development to break it down into a really small piece that can be implemented, and then, okay, here's a demo, you can see that I've delivered it.
Mhm.
Let's set small timetables to move forward and chunk things down so you can see over and over and over again rather quickly, here's this feature, here's this feature, here's this feature.
Yep.
You can make sure that things are on track.
That helps avoid miscommunication. It's very expensive if you spend 3 months on something and then you bring it to them and show it to them, and it's not quite right, but they've already got so much of an investment in time and money that it's awfully hard to turn the ship at that point.
Right, and you're taking small bites, it's easy to make course corrections.
No, I think we talked about a little bit about kind of iterative business development. I mean, it definitely makes sense to have your developers deliver something you can use, either if it's an app or a website, pretty recently, so you get it in your hands, you know what doesn't quite work. So that's definitely a great takeaway. I do want to hear more about what the developers are going wrong. We've kind of been trashing the entrepreneurs a little bit, but what are the developers doing wrong? Okay.
I think there's a terrible, terrible cockiness to even like all my friends. Just like for some reason in the last 10 years, like it's become cool to be a geek, right?
Mhm.
And I try and not be that way at all when I talk about things I'm developing for a client. I try and be as conversational as possible. I've dealt with other programmers who do more languages I don't speak, and I've had to just feel like shit just listening to them talk about like themselves as if they're like, holy, I don't know. Do you guys notice like the last couple of years people are just like super high on themselves about being a developer? It's like
There's always been alpha geeks. There's always been like the guys who need to be the smartest people in the room and have everyone know that they're the smartest people in the room. But yeah, definitely in the past 3 or 4 years, the industry has gone to a place where everyone's like, oh, the developer. It comes out of Silicon Valley. Like you need the smart developers. They're going to build your startup for you. They're the engine that runs everything. Somewhat true, but if you can't communicate and if you don't like the person, then it's not valuable. I mean, it's not.
I think it's all founded in the Steve Jobs School of Interpersonal Communication. So he wasn't a developer, but it's just kind of that, like you said, startup, and that's the way you are.
So yeah, you can definitely make a mistake. You can work with the most brilliant person if you can't talk to them. If they won't listen to your ideas, they don't take the time to understand what you're trying to get from them. It's better to have a medium level developer that actually listens to you than like get the alpha geek who just does his own thing. Builds this great awesome thing but isn't helpful.
So what's more valuable? Question from the developer. What's more valuable for me to be able to communicate to you what I'm trying to get, or the opposite of whatever I was just trying to say?
That communication.
Damn, I know. To sound more like I'm listening, or to be able to communicate to someone, which would be discuss.
I-
Communicate too. I don't know, on the business side, I mean, lack of communication would rather, no, not even necessarily technical, but just feedback, conversation, updates.
Is that lack of the developer understanding what the requirement is, or is that the lack of the business people understanding what the hell the developer's talking about?
I think it's a basic working relationship. I think it comes down to when
It's-
if you're not
Not even
communicating
so
with,
technical.
if you're not communicating well with your developer, you just don't have a good business relationship. I mean, you got to develop those things as a basis. I mean, the first thing that I look for when I look for a developer is, can I trust this person? Is this somebody I can get along with? Because it's not a matter of if things go wrong. Things are gonna go wrong, and I want to know that you and I can sit down and we can resolve those things. And it's a part of, do we decide that we're gonna have weekly updates and you're providing me with a status report, or basic building blocks like that I think along the way.
Yeah, I think, and I've had most success if I just feel like, I'm happy to let you tell me how you want to do things and when whatever scope of thing is going to be done based on however you want to do it, but hopefully then you would just do that, what you said, and then if that doesn't work, which invariably something won't work on either end, it's just the communication about it, like proactively. Like, on a recent project, somebody had set a deadline, we'll have this done on Monday, and it was like 9 a.m. Monday morning, and I got it. It's like, wow, I was expecting, 8 p.m. or like midnight, because that's kind of my own default. So, like little stuff like that. I was like, wow, you said Monday, and it's Monday.
Anywhere till 11:59,
Monday and white.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So,
But Dan, to your point, I mean, if someone says something to me, I try and repeat it back to them in my own words, just so they know what I'm saying. Sometimes they think I don't understand, and that's why I'm repeating it back. That's not very often, though. They'll restate it again. I'm like, no, I'm trying to repeat it back into words. So it's do two things. I mean, repeat back what they said in your own words, and here's what we should do about it. And hopefully, they can repeat something back to you. All right, let's go to Jason.
I would add that the developers who are full of themselves, who think that they're so great just because they're developers, I can't help but think that they're potential fodder for the daily WTF and coding horror. It seems to me that they essentially have the senioritis mentality, that they're so great that they can do no wrong, that it's normal to be able to that no matter what they do, they'll do the job well. And of course, as you can see, that kind of attitude isn't conducive to learning or to improvement. And it may be approved by all the self-help books and so on, but it really isn't conducive to productivity.
There's a great series of blogs called The Expert Beginner, if anyone's read that, where it talks about a developer that learns one thing, they know it, and they got comfortable with it, and they just shut off learning anything else. So everything is filtered through what they know. So it's a good thing to look it up. It's a couple of posts that are excellent.
And it's a trap that a developer can get easily caught in is, I finally got a job doing PHP, and now I'm stuck doing PHP jobs. That's the only thing I know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would summarize it though as really a good team player. Like, as a developer, for those of the developers in the room, we talk about, we may struggle with communication a bit, but if you focus on elevating the knowledge level of your team, everybody you work with, and understanding and are very open and sharing those experiences, including things that you screw up, right? So I've made huge disastrous errors in my work, in my career, I'm like, hey, you guys should learn from this, because I don't want you to do that, as we get new developers and come on. And spending time with people who, I used to be a bit of the alpha
geek.
Alpha geek developer, and, people would, I would just tell my boss, if you just let me do that, it would be faster, right? And what I realized, though, is that I can't scale me, right? It's all about having the organization as a whole go faster, be better, and whatever. So if I spend my time helping those people who are struggling, those developers maybe who don't see things the same way, if I work with them and say, what's going on here? How do I help you become more successful in your role, then everybody's better. So I think just focusing on being a good team player.
Yeah, find people that make the people around them better.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it.
So
We're about.
Dale said, alpha males don't scale. What you need is my favorite sports movie, Miracle on Ice. I don't want the
There we go.
best person, I want the best team.
There we go.
If my kids hear that one more time, they're going to strangle me.
The Gophers are playing tonight. It's about beer 30. So yeah, let's keep talking. Let's grab a beer. So.